All right, hello everyone. We're getting towards the end of the second week, so I figured I should give an update. Um, One from my own memory. Just got back from Oxford. There was a conference over there related to what we call spatially embedded networks. So imagine your Facebook friend group. Well, all of those people have friends, and so you can make kind of a network of who's friends with who. And then when we say spatially embedded, we just mean like it's this network lives somewhere in some space, and so that network lives on the globe. You can imagine plotting the locations of all your friends, and and then still having kind of links between who's friends with who. Or you could do it with cities. This conference focused on like wireless networks, so thinking about where you place cell towers and and how your users have to connect to that. And obviously, where you put those cell towers matters because they interfere with each other. Um, so it was a good opportunity for me to see what some people were doing in industry with the research. Met some new friends, or made some new friends. Went to some of the local pubs. Um, like there was one from like the 1300s, and the ceilings were like short enough that I had a duck. And if you know how tall I am, that's like quite the statement. Um, but then the architecture as a whole was incredible. I mean, you had all of like the Greek architecture, so the Dorian columns, the Ionic, and then the Roman style, the uh, I'm blanking on Corinthian columns, so not the one that the Romans took from the Greeks. So you saw all those different columns represented throughout. I stayed at Oriel College, which is one of the older ones within Oxford. It's actually an abbreviation for something else I can't remember. But when the youngsters would go out to the pubs, they needed something to call them back in, and the original name was just way too long, so they abbreviated it to Oriel College. I went walking through Trinity College, and I'll be posting some of those photos. It's just also incredible. I've met some UW students while I was touring there, so that was fun. And then from there, went to the Mathematical Institute at Oxford, and so saw a self-uprighting object. So you has a constant density, and no matter what, it'll rotate itself to get back to its the same position or to the original position. Um, and so there's that. I didn't realize that Hardy had done some time. I knew he went to or he worked at Cambridge, but I didn't know he also worked at Oxford. So that was a interesting little bit of history. And I'll post some photos from the Math Institute as well. And then uh, beyond that, just I mean, mostly I went and saw the Shrunken Skulls, which is one part of a museum. Uh, I think it's the Pat Rivers Museum, or I might be saying that wrong. But basically, they one of their exhibits looked at what do people do with their enemies, and so um, a lot of them had like skulls with spears thrown through them because that's a pretty good way. But and others had like the mouths sewn shut. But there was one group, um, or at least a region where they would actually shrink the skull, and I mean not the skull but the face. So they do that by hollowing out everything and then slow cooking the skin essentially down and using rocks to keep the basic shape. So that was a bit interesting. um, humans are a curious bunch. Beyond that, I learned about English water faucets, and their plumbing's awful. So like they have a hot spigot, and a cold spigot instead of like one that'll like merge both of those together that you can choose between hot and cold. Um, and the hot, like it would be fine if it was like a typical like hot, but this is like scalding hot water, and like I'm like they like their tea and whatnot, but like this was another level So I just didn't use the spigot, and then I just used the cold one. Um, and then yeah, beyond that, I mean, the people were interesting. I talked to some people about Brexit. Most of them were, I mean, academics in Oxford, so their position's a bit different than most, or maybe not most now, but at the time of voting. Uh, and so yeah, it was really good. I It's been interesting being in the Netherlands just because I don't speak English to a lot of people. So I mean, I don't speak at all to a lot of people just because I haven't learned Netherlands or Dutch, sorry. Um, and it's not. I mean, they speak great English, so that's not a problem. But as far as like, I found myself being more introverted just because I don't speak the language. So like initiating a conversation with a stranger, which is something that I feel like I've gotten better at over the past couple years, has been harder. Um, but yeah, so going to England was really kind of helpful for that, just because you got to like speak English with other people, um, and I mean, for a lot of the people there, that was one of several languages they had learned or they were in the process of learning. I learned that when Germans say uh, something, not 9:30, but nine. Let's see. Now I got to make sure I say it right. When they refer to time and they say like 9.5, they actually mean 10.5. Like if you were to say, if when they say 9.5, as in like not what we would think of 9:30, they actually mean 8:30. So they essentially round up the hours. So that was a bit just another little bit to learn from one of the individuals at the conference. Beyond that, I went to a formal dinner, and I mean they fed us well, but they had one like formal dinner, and so I didn't realize if you didn't want like wine, you would flip your wine glass upside down, and so they served me both white and red, which was fine. I'm not complaining, but I felt a little bit let's see what like an alcoholic for that level of consumption. But um, yeah, they treated me well. They made me eat my greens. Like, I got fish and chips the first day there, and like, and so the fish was great. The French fries were actually really good. They seemed a bit different than the U.S. fries, and I can't put a finger on what was different. But then they had just a huge like salad bit, and that kind of struck me because when I think fish and chips, salad is not even word, and they're like peas with it as well. Um, and so, but yeah, the salad was just a huge part of basically of every meal that I got. There was a large salad included, at least large relative to kind of what I'm used to. Um, so that was fun. And then, so I think that's kind of the extent of what I wanted to talk about as far as Oxford goes. Came back yesterday, met with the group that I'll be TAing for. So it's an analysis class. So hopefully I figure out everything I'm supposed to be doing for that. This is the guy I'm uh, going to be working with. He seems very helpful as far as like he took the initiative, saying he would do the first grading session and make sure we got the key for the room. Um, so appreciative of that, um, and just appreciative of the community as far as, I mean, everyone there, their primary language was Dutch, but they had the meeting in English just because um, I don't speak Dutch, and so that was really really thankful for that. Um, Going like back to, I am a bit homesick. Like there's uh like they put up a map of the USA during the conference because they were showing like the road networks and airplane networks, and had that like home logging. I was like, there's home. It's right there. I can like on the map. That's where it is. Um, and even Bellingham actually popped up, not the city, but like a node for where Bellingham showed up on one of the maps. Um, so yeah, so a little bit homesick, doing pretty good. At least like talk to mom and dad um, at, during this past week, so that was helpful. I don't know, it's kind of weird because when I talk to them, I get a little bit homesick because I think about them and I think about home. But yeah, I'm adjusting so far. Um, and then yeah, so had that meeting today, and then met with my advisor afterwards, and kind of set out kind of a game plan for the next week as far as what I'll be studying. And so we're still very much in the exploratory phase of figuring out what to do. It's really fun because in some way, like when I was an undergrad, I had this project that I worked on for my senior project, and so now kind of I'm continuing on in some ways that project as far as the material covered. So it's adding a nice little bit to completeness because I kind of for my or not kind of entirely for my senior project I proved half a theorem, and so the next bit that I should do is prove the other half of the theorem. And so that's a goal for this week. So there's that, and beyond that, like, things are good. There's a bar on campus that has Heineken. I think it's a third or zero point 0.3 liters for €1. So hopefully that doesn't become too much of a burden, or not a burden, a temptation for me. It'll be fine. Anyways, I think that's it. I've been talking for 12 minutes now, so I should probably stop. All right, thanks. Bye.